A good tevach, we begin another incredible week of Mesilas Yesharim Yomi with this fabulous Hachzik program. If anyone hasn't seen the weekly write-ups, get your hands on them. They are incredible. And we're holding on page 274 in the Artscroll Mesilas Yesharim as we continue learning about Prishos, the 13th chapter. And as we ended last week, we learned that we're really in part to be of this incredible sefer. The first 12 chapters dealt with that which we'll call normal people. That was Sidkus, to be a tzaddik. Every Jew has to be a tzaddik. The next chapters now deal with Prishos, which begin the chapters about Chasidos, to be a Chasid. So says Ramchal on page 274, the matter is, he just finished discussing back and forth whether this matter of Prishos is its own thing for everyone or not. Kivadich Chalukim Rabbi Mikarmish B'davar, says the Ramchal, there are certainly many distinctions and differentiations within this matter. Yesh prishos and it's davnu by. There is prishos that we have to do. Yesh prishos and zanu love the vilti kashal by. And then there's prishos just not to stumble in it. Don't be too tzaddik. Don't be too righteous. And this is going to be the fine line that we have to figure out. What is the prishos? What is the sidkus? What is the chasidus for each and every Jew? And one is not. So continues the prishos. Continues the Ramchal, telling us what is the correct level of prishos on the bottom of page 274. Let's understand the good prishos. And we should say, after it became clear all the worldly matters, our test, everything that happens to us, is a nisayon. As we learned all the way back at the beginning of the Sefer, back in chapter 1, and we proved that everything that happens to a person is an nisayon. If it's amez lanu, and we prove that it is true, emes, kam kein roiv chulshas adam v'kirvas daitel arais, that what all the great weaknesses and all our pulls to do evils, yisbar behachrech, it will be completely clear. Shekol ma shuchla adam liyimalei mininyanim ha'ela, as much as a person can be lihimaleit, to escape from all these worldly matters, Rayu Sheyaseh, he should do so. Kedei, for what reason? In order to be protected from the evil, from the ra that comes from all these different worldly matters. Why? Because there's no physical pleasure. Every physical pleasure has a chait ba'kevoy. On the heel, it could be this little part, but whenever there's a worldly pleasure, what comes together with it? A little bit of chait. And continues Ramchal with numerous examples how when one does something mutter, it could bring him closer to Naveira. And this is within the explanation of Kaddish Atzcha B'Mutter Lach, which was the pretense of the entire chapter of Prishos. Then now we're discussing things which are ostensibly mutter. And now we're trying to figure out where, what, and how. So Derech Mashal, says the Ramchal, Ha'machov ha'mishteh, food and drink, kishem nikol mikol isur achila. When they're free of all isurim, there's nothing wrong, 100% glad kosher. Hinei mutarim heim. You're allowed to eat it. However, when one has a full stomach, a big belly, could cause him to cast off the yoke of heaven. And what happens when one has too much wine? It brings him to znos, and all other immoral things. So what do we see? It's mutter. There's nothing wrong. It's 100% kosher. But it has on the ikev, it has on the heel a little bit that pulls on to do a sin. Continues the Ramchal, that's talking about one time he indulges, one time he drinks. So we got to be careful of the sin that could pull from it. Certainly, says Ramchal, someone who's a margil, someone who's accustomed to eat and drink, if one time he misses what's regular, he's going to be in a lot of pain, and he's going to be missing a lot. And because of that, what does he do? He works a lot, because he needs to have enough money to constantly eat and constantly drink. And one time he feels, I don't have enough money to buy that expensive drink, to go to that expensive restaurant. He goes back and he has to work and work and work. And the more that he works to get the money, so that his table can be lavishly set with all the desires that he wants. What happens? Now he starts getting drawn to evil practices, to gzela. Why? Because he needs to set up his table. Why? To have the food, which really all theoretically started with something mutter. And then it continues. Ezra Ramchal, the slippery slope that starts with that mutter thing that draws with it a little avera and pulls and pulls and pulls. So he started with too much business. Then he went to gzela. Now he's going to mishamal shvuos, swearing falsely. All the other averis. And what happens? He disconnects. He removes himself from Taira, Avodah, and Tefillah. And where could we have spared all this? Where did this all come from? If in the beginning he was Kaddish he didn't indulge, he didn't dive into all the taivas and all to the anas of Eilam Hazeh, he would have been prevented from everything. So even though it was 100% kosher, it slowly pulled him along. So I find Ben Torah Meira, this Torah knew that once he goes down that slippery slope, it's all over. Similarly with regard to Zenos, you should be yazir yourself from yayin. Even though all you saw is the saita, but once you're on that path, once you start a little bit, even though it could start with selling mutter, it slowly could draw you further and further. And that's why the Ramchal is teaching us that even things which are mutter, we have to slowly start staying away.